What's going on, guys? Let me know if you could hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Let me know if you guys hear me or not. How's everybody doing tonight? New York Adventurer, Always Loyal, Fear God, Lori B, Nicholas Woodle, SoCal Deb. I hope you guys are having a great night. Devis 08, God Soldiers, great to see you. Old Spice, yeah, long time no see, that's right. Haven't seen you in a while. So I wanted to just catch you guys up on the latest news and talk about all things prepping, firearms, and current events. So that's going to be the topic of tonight's live stream. So I'm first just going to give you guys a quick summary of the news, and then I'll just open up the chat. We could talk about anything, pretty much. What kind of wood am I burning? Stance Clevenger's asking. Just some wood that I just scavenged at my shooting range, actually. They took down a couple of trees a few months back because they were doing work, and I just took my bow saw and cut a bunch of, it looks like oak, some kind of oak. So it burns really good. It's probably oak because it's hot. Oak burns real hot. Hank Hall says, talk about 32 ACP. Not much to say about 32 ACP other than I think it's kind of underpowered in my opinion. So I hope you guys had a great week. I want to get started here with the news and just going to do a quick summary of all the major headlines this week. And it was a really busy week as far as news goes. So let me just update you guys on that. So the big news today was that Putin said that there would be a global catastrophe if NATO were to go to war with Russian troops. So I want to read to you exactly what Putin said today. This was in Kazakhstan, in the capital of Kazakhstan, Astana. What's going on, Armageddon Preparedness. Good to see you in here, man. Armageddon Preparedness. Hope you're doing well. So in Kazakhstan today, Putin said, I'll read to you exactly what Putin said. He said, the introduction of troops into a direct confrontation with the Russian army is a very dangerous step that could lead to a global catastrophe. I hope that those who speak of this have enough sense not to take such steps. All right, so there you have it, guys. Putin with some strong words in Kazakhstan saying a direct confrontation with the Russian army is a very dangerous step that could lead to a global catastrophe. Okay, he's talking about a nuclear war. All right, and this is coming right after the top diplomat of the European Union, Joseph Borrell, said, I think it was on Wednesday, that Russian troops would be annihilated if Putin were to nuke Ukraine. So let me just read to you what Joseph Borrell said, okay? Joseph Borrell said that Putin is saying he is not bluffing. Well, we cannot afford bluffing, and it has to be clear that the people supporting Ukraine and the European Union and the member states and the United States and NATO are not bluffing neither. Any nuclear attack against Ukraine will create an answer, not a nuclear answer, but such a powerful answer from the military side that the Russian army will be annihilated. Okay? That is just absolutely crazy words coming from the top diplomat of the EU. Okay? Joseph Borrell. I'll read to you again what he said. Any nuclear attack against Ukraine will create an answer, not a nuclear answer, but such a powerful answer from the military side that the Russian army will be annihilated. Okay. And also, a senior NATO official said that there would be a quote unquote physical response if Putin were to use nukes in Ukraine. Okay. And I believe it, guys. I believe that NATO and the EU would have to respond, because if they don't respond, you know what'll happen is China, North Korea, and all these countries are watching, okay? And if the United States and NATO don't do anything at all, it's going to basically give China, North Korea, and Iran the green light to, uh, go after Taiwan or South Korea or Israel or Saudi Arabia. So the U.S. is going to have to respond if Putin nukes Ukraine. And I really think there's a very high chance that Putin is going to nuke Ukraine. And the reason why is because Ukraine is kicking the Russian army's ass. Okay. The Russian army is getting their ass kicked. Pardon my French. Okay. And that's just the reality. You know, the Russian military retreated with their tail between their legs, and Ukraine is on the verge of taking back Kherson. Kherson is a very, very important city in southern Ukraine, and it's the gateway to Crimea, and it's the gateway to the Crimean water supply. So that's what Ukraine is setting its sights on in the coming weeks. And if Ukraine takes back Kherson, I think Putin is going to really get pissed off. And, screw Putin. That's all I got to say. He has no right to that territory. It's not his land. Okay, maybe 50 years ago or 100 years ago, it was part of the Soviet Union. Okay, but it's not the Soviet Union anymore, and he has no right to conquer another country's territory. It's like if Mexico invaded Texas and said, "Listen, guys, Texas was part of Mexico a couple 100 years ago. So now we're going to take it back." I mean, it's just crazy. So there's been a notice to mariners. If you guys don't know what a notice to mariners is, it's just a warning for mariners, captains of boats, that there's going to be some kind of missile debris in the Barents Sea. Now, the Barents Sea is part of the Russian Arctic. It's just north of Scandinavia. If you look at a map of Scandinavia, just to the north of Scandinavia, that's the Barents Sea. And there was a notice to mariners for today through Monday that there could be missile debris falling and something related to missiles. So I don't know if they're going to test that Belgorod over the weekend. The Status 6 Poseidon doomsday, torpedo with the 100 megaton warhead, supposedly. I don't know how true that is, but maybe they're going to do some kind of a nuclear test. Now, what's interesting is that NATO and Russia are both doing nuclear exercises at the same exact time. Okay, Russia's doing it now, NATO is doing it now. And I did an emergency alert the other day, and there were 4 U.S. nuclear war command and control planes over the United States on Wednesday into Thursday. And that's just a very, very high amount of nuclear war command and control planes. Normally, there's only 1 or 2 at any given time. It's very rare to even see 2 of them. During the actual initial part of the invasion, there were 2 nuclear war command and control planes going nonstop round the clock, and they've cut that back to like 1. And so for them to suddenly increase to 4 is really, really unusual. There were also a dozen P-8 Poseidon subhunter planes, okay, and there were also 2 dozen KC-135 aerial refueling planes. Those are the KC-135 Stratotankers. And those aerial refueling planes are critical if there's a nuclear war. They use those aerial refueling planes to refuel all of the doomsday planes that the U.S. has, okay? The presidential doomsday planes, the nuclear war command and control planes, fighter jets, B-2 bombers, AWACS planes, P-8 Poseidons, all of those planes would stay up in the air as long as possible, and they would have to be refueled. And especially the presidential doomsday plane and the nuclear war command and control planes, those would have to stay airborne during a nuclear war, because as soon as they land, they could be hit by some kind of a Russian missile. So they would have to stay airborne. In order to stay airborne, they need to be refueled constantly. So just a massive military presence over the last couple of days here in the U.S. Just unprecedented scale of these nuclear warplanes and associated planes. It's just really not normal. So, the tensions today are at the highest they've been since the Cold War, even worse than the Cold War, in my opinion. There were also B-2 stealth bombers that landed in Poland for the first time ever. Okay. And there was a lot of people saying that it was fake news that the B-2 bomber landed in Poland, and it's not fake news, guys. It's true news. Okay, for the first time ever, a U.S. B-2 stealth bomber landed in eastern Poland, apparently, and Poland requested to share nuclear weapons with the rest of NATO, because right now NATO has all of their nuclear weapons in Western Europe, and that's based on the founding treaty. When NATO was first created, they signed a treaty with Russia that they would not position any nuclear weapons east of Germany. Basically, any of the former Soviet bloc states could not have nuclear weapons, so they signed a treaty with Russia. So this is basically a way of going around that treaty, because now they have a B-2 bomber in Poland, and one B-2 stealth bomber can carry 16 B-83 nuclear warheads, which have a 1 megaton blast yield. So they can carry 16 of those warheads, guys. That is just absolutely insane. That is just a ton of firepower that the United States can bring to bear on Russia. Hang on, guys. I just got to tend to my fire here. All right, guys. So those B-2 stealth bombers are just absolutely incredible. They have tremendous capability. They can carry 16 nuclear warheads, and they have one of these in Poland now. And so Russia's not going to be able to, do anything about that, because it's not an actual nuclear weapon. It's just a plane. So it's not the same as moving warheads into Poland. So that's a clever way around that treaty with Russia, and it's a clever way to provide Poland with protection, and also extend the U.S.'s nuclear capability further east. Trisha Mills, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much for that donation. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you. Colorado Dirt Biker says, I worked in a KC-135 in the early 90s, and I can say they are gassing up aircraft that are not identifying. Bomber and fighters would fit this. AMC transports may show on Flight Radar, not sure. So there's a lot of people that always ask me, oh, how come if this was a real emergency, why are we able to see all these planes in the air? Well, number one, they're just nuclear war command and control planes. We don't see the stealth bombers. We don't see a lot of other stuff. Okay, we don't see those. But here's the thing: the U.S. military has to turn on their transponders during peacetime. Otherwise, these planes could collide with civilian passenger jets. You know how many jets are in the air at any given time? You have thousands and thousands of planes in the air, and if they didn't have their transponder on, then they could collide. Another plane wouldn't be able to see them flying, and they could just smash right into them. So they have to turn their transponders on in peacetime. In wartime, they can shut them off. All it takes is just the push of a button to shut it off. So I'm sick and tired of all these idiotic people that have no clue about anything, you know, posting these BS comments and trying to throw people off. Okay, all the information I provide to you guys is true. I don't provide fake news, and there's a lot of these people out there that want to throw you off and minimize the seriousness of the situation. It's a very, very serious situation right now, guys. We are literally right on the verge of nuclear war. We're teetering on the verge of nuclear war, okay? Um, Christopher Kriva, thank you for that donation, man. I appreciate you. That's so nice of you, man. Thank you. Um, Someone said, always keep extra socks in your bug out bag. Yeah, I always keep an extra pair of socks and underwear. Having clean underwear is important too. So an extra pair of socks, extra pair of underwear. Another good thing to keep is a good thing to have is a candle, because a candle, you don't need batteries to operate. You just light the wick. And this company called Exotac, they make this huge candle. It's like the size of a chewing tobacco can, but just like thicker. It's like a hockey puck basically, and it's like a beeswax, and you can burn that thing for up to like 30 hours. Everybody should have one of those in their bug out bag also, in case your battery gets drained or something on your flashlight and you need some light. Um, so So let me just continue with some of the news here. I'm just going to keep moving on. So, make no mistake about it, guys. We are literally teetering on the verge of nuclear war. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that's just the reality. Uh, Russia is evacuating civilians from Kherson, and this was just announced today that basically there's a massive evacuation going on in Kherson. Russia's trying to get all their people out of Kherson because they're anticipating that Ukraine is going to come in and retake Kherson. Okay. Like I said, guys, if Ukraine retakes Kherson, Putin is going to be a miserable man. And so we have to be on very high alert that he could do something crazy. Um, Someone says Ward Montgomery says I keep a few Bic lighters. Yeah, Bic lighters are great. The only thing with Bic lighters is you got to protect the top of them, because you can crush that top part where the flame comes out. You can damage that. It could also freeze. So I get like these little Bic lighter holders from that same company, Exotac, and they have these like black like rubber and plastic Bic light holders. You slide the Bic light in it, and it has like a cap that snaps over it to protect it, so you don't damage it. Um, SoCal Deb says, why is this not considered World War III with all the countries involved? Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're basically on the beginning stages of World War III. The U.S. announced another aid package to Ukraine, $725 million in aid. This was just announced today. So the U.S. continues to pour the military support for Ukraine. And we also have some information coming from Belarus. Okay, if you watched my updates this week, Belarus possibly is on the verge of invading Ukraine. They've set up a joint group with the Russian army, and they're going to station like over 100,000 troops on the border of Ukraine in southern Belarus. And like I said before, they're doing that to keep the pressure on the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians have to divert some of their resources to the northern part of Ukraine, away from Kherson and away from the conquered areas. It's possible that Belarus and Russia will invade Ukraine from the north again. We'll have to wait and see, but that's a real possibility, guys. Obviously, they could try. They could try to cut off Ukraine from Poland and put the troops in, so this way, the West can't resupply Ukraine anymore. If they can push south and basically cut off Western Ukraine and form like a barrier, but I don't think that's going to happen. They don't have the troops. They don't have the skills. You know, these troops that Putin is sending to the front line now are grade B troops. You know, they're not the best troops that Putin has. You know, he already used his best troops in the first phase of the war. His best troops have already been killed, and now he's forced to draft regular Russians, you know, guys that are mechanics, cooks, you know, regular people. He's forced to draft them because his professional army was killed off in the first phase. So, you know, and they're also saying that Putin's supply of cruise missiles has dwindled to the point where they believe that Putin only has a few hundred cruise missiles left. So they're probably not going to be doing any more missile strikes for a while because they've almost completely depleted all their caliber cruise missiles. The caliber cruise missiles are the ones that they've been using to strike at Ukraine all this time. So it's a very serious situation, guys. You know, it's Ward Montgomery says Russians are like C minus and F troops. Yeah. Yeah, the troops they have are just pathetic. They don't even have night vision, guys. The Russian army does not even issue night vision to all their troops. In the US military, every single infantry soldier gets a night vision PVS 14. Okay, every single, even just a basic infantry soldier. Okay, we're not talking about special ops, we're not talking about rangers, just basic infantry. They get night vision. Okay, in the Russian army, they can't afford that, so they don't get night vision. Only the special ops do, and so you know, that's a huge disadvantage for the Russians. You know, because the Ukrainians all have night vision and the Russians don't have night vision. So so yeah, there's some news now that the Belarus military has banned all of their servicemen from leaving the country unless they're visiting the Russian Federation, and Belarusian reserve officers began receiving orders to return to service. So Belarus is calling up their reserves now. The European Union plans to set up a missile shield called Sky Shield, which is going to basically work over all of Europe. Basically, it's called Sky Shield. Ukraine is supposed to get an integrated air defense system from multiple countries. They're going to integrate short, medium, and long range air defenses together to protect Ukraine and basically multiple countries throughout Europe, and any kind of ally of NATO is going to supply air defenses for Ukraine, and they're basically going to try to integrate them together into like a giant missile shield for Ukraine. So I'm sure they're trying to figure out a way to stop nuclear tipped cruise missiles. Um, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think that if Putin were to nuke Ukraine, he's going to use nuclear tipped cruise missiles. That's his best way, because if he tries to just fly a bomber over, he's not going to be able to fly a bomber over because it's going to get shot down. And he can't use an ICBM because an ICBM is overpowered and it's too long range. So a nuclear tipped cruise missile is what they would do. Um, And on the topic of that, Russia moved 7 Tu-160 nuclear bombers to the Kola Peninsula, with just 100 miles away from the Finnish border. So they have 7 Tu-160s and 4 Tu-95 nuclear bombers for a total of 11 nuclear bombers in northwestern Russia, right on the border of Finland, on the Kola Peninsula. And those Tu-160 bombers, guys, those are the ones that I fear they're going to use for this nuclear strike on Ukraine. I think it's going to happen. In my opinion, I have a very, very bad feeling. And I think the sad thing is they're going to target Ukrainian cities because the Ukrainian military has dispersed itself. So there's no concentration of Ukrainian military personnel that the Russians can go after. So the only thing that they can go after now are cities, Kiev, Kharkiv, Kherson. Maybe that's why the Russians are evacuating Russian troops from Kherson. Maybe they're going to nuke it. Maybe they're going to draw the Ukrainians into Kherson and then they're going to nuke it. I mean, who knows? But if Russia does nuke Ukraine, there's a very high chance that it's going to be civilian targets, cities, not military targets, because the Ukrainian military has dispersed itself. Okay. Complete blackout in the city of Belgorod occurred today after an explosion at a power plant. Most likely it was some kind of a Ukrainian attack, probably a HIMARS missile that took out some kind of power plant in Belgorod. Belgorod is a Russian city right on the border of Ukraine. So Live Your Life is asking, when do you think it will happen? That's the $1,000,000 question, dude. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can tell you this. The winds in the wintertime, I'm Eastern European. My heritage is Slavic. I was born in America, but my family is Slavic, so I know Eastern Europe very well. I've been there multiple times, and in the wintertime in Eastern Europe, the winds blow from east to west, okay? And in the summertime, they blow from west to east. So if Putin were to nuke Ukraine, his best timing to do that would be actually this winter, because during the wintertime, the wind would blow any possible fallout westward because the winds come from the east and they blow west towards Europe. Okay, he's not going to do it in the summer because in the summer you have those west winds that blow from west to east. In other words, the winds blow from Europe to Russia in the summer. The winds come off of the Atlantic, and in the wintertime, you have the Siberian high pressure system in Siberia that blows the wind from east to west. So if he's going to do it, my guess is he's going to do it in the wintertime when the prevailing winds are going towards Europe. Okay. Now, I think he would also use airburst nuclear weapons. I don't think he would do a surface burst. He might do a couple of surface bursts mixed in with air bursts, but I think 60% of them are going to be air bursts. Okay, let me just tend to my fire. I'm going to explain to you the difference if you guys don't know what that is. So an air burst, okay, an air burst is when you detonate a nuclear weapon above the ground. Typically, it's around like 1 kilometer above the ground. And when you do an airburst detonation, there's no fallout at all. Okay. And that's what makes it very attractive to someone like Putin, because he could use the airburst weapons and generate a huge blast wave and damage large areas without the radiation. If you do a surface burst, which means the bomb blows up on ground level, then you're going to have a lot of radiation, because the fireball is going to come into contact with whatever's on the ground, and it's going to be sucked up into the mushroom cloud, and you're going to have that fallout. It's like sand like particles that are heavy and they fall to the ground and they're radioactive. Someone asked me, how cold is it? It's not that cold right now, but it's supposed to get cold next week. On Monday and Tuesday, we're supposed to get snow, believe it or not. Today it was like 65. It was beautiful. The leaves are just gorgeous here. I'm going to go out into the woods tomorrow for a deep hike and do some scouting for bear season. I'll bring you guys some footage from that. The leaves are just gorgeous in Pennsylvania in this time of the year. Pennsylvania, the Midwest, the Northeast, the leaves are just incredible. There's really no place in North America that has the same foliage as the Northeast and the Midwest. And Southern Canada has the best foliage, because you have so many different types of trees that turn color, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So I think right now it's like 50 degrees. It's not cold. I think we're supposed to go down to like 38 tonight or something like that. But on Monday and Tuesday they're talking about 20s and snow. So we'll have to wait and see. So I think Putin could use an airburst nuclear weapon, multiple airbursted nukes all over Ukraine, hitting the big cities. When you airburst a nuke, what happens is the blast wave actually spreads out further, because you don't have the ground absorbing the blast. Okay, so airburst, you don't have as much concentrated damage, but the blast wave spreads out further. It propagates further because it's detonated above the ground. So you can damage a large area with a smaller weapon, which is very attractive to someone like Putin, because he doesn't have to use a huge, powerful warhead, and it'll do a massive amount of damage. Um, so I think he'll do airburst nukes. I think he'll do certain areas. He'll do surface bursts. Like, I think he would probably hit Kiev with a surface burst, because he would want to take out Zelensky and any kind of bunkers he might be in. So he could use a surface burst on Kiev. And for other cities, he would probably do an airburst. But I think it would make the most sense for him to do it in the wintertime, so the radiation doesn't blow into Russia. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens, guys. I'm just speculating. I don't know. And ultimately, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. I'm just speculating here. Yeah, I got to put some more wood on the fire. I might just let it burn out now, though, honestly. Christopher Kriva said, Greg has posted an entire playlist on nuclear war survival. That is mandatory for anyone in this chat. Also, he posted winter SHTF tips. Yep, exactly. Check out my nuclear war survival playlist. I have like 45 videos on nuclear war survival, and my How to Survive Nuclear War series. You got to check that out. I still have to finish it. I have a few more videos to do, but I go in really, really great detail of how to survive nuclear war. So yeah, definitely check it out. I don't know if it would be a full-blown nuclear war between the U.S. and Russia. There could be like a limited nuclear exchange. That's something that I think that's very possible, is that Russia could just launch a couple, like 5 or 10 at Europe and the US, and then we would launch a few back, and it would just kind of stalemate at that point, rather than escalating to a full-on conflict, and that's why it's so important to know what to do when there's a nuclear attack. Most Americans don't know what to do now because they think it'll never happen, but there's a very high chance of a limited nuclear strike. Limited meaning Russia doesn't want to get annihilated and they don't want to have a global catastrophe, so they would just launch a couple of nukes and then we would launch a couple back and then it would stop there. And if you happen to be in those areas that get hit, life is going to suck for you. And that's why living in a good area is the most important. One of the most important things as a prepper is living in a secure location, away from nuclear war targets. And if you do have to live near a nuclear war target, or any kind of big city, then you should have a really good plan and think about how to survive. Um, Eunice Olson says, I love that you know randomly about the Siberian pressure system. Yeah, I know about the Siberian high pressure because I'm Eastern European and it affects Eastern European weather. So I'm very familiar, and I have an interest in weather. So, yes, correct. Prodies says destroy bunkers with a surface blast. Yep, surface blast or a bunker buster. SoCal Deb is asking me, can you address that after 40 years old you need to use caution with iodine pills? Uh, I've never heard anything about after 40 using caution with iodine pills. I would just follow the directions on whatever company you go with for your iodine pills. Follow the directions closely. Obviously, if you're really old, it's more risk. But no, potassium iodide. It's just iodine. You're just taking iodine and saturating your thyroid with a safe form of iodine. And the reason why you're doing that is to prevent your body from absorbing the radioactive iodine. So by saturating your thyroid with potassium iodide, it's your thyroid is going to be saturated with the safe form. So when you get exposed to the iodine 131, your body won't absorb it because you already have iodine in your thyroid and it won't damage your thyroid. Uh, God's Soldiers Ministries. Check out my buddy God's Soldiers Ministries. He released a new Christian rap song today. He's going to release another Christian rap song tomorrow. And he does a lot of street preaching. So check out God's Soldiers. Great channel. Um, New York Adventurer says, I can't wait for that. Christopher Creva says, I can't wait to see it. Thank you, guys. Upstate New York by the Finger Lakes has amazing hikes. Yeah, I've been to the Finger Lakes. It's very nice. I'm not familiar with Erie, Pennsylvania. I've never really been there before. No. Uh, Tiffany Hartman, good to see you. Always loyal. Thanks for showing up. So it's a very serious situation, guys. I mean, we're literally on the verge of nuclear war here. It's not looking good. Um, it's not looking good at all. Stance Clevenger says, Greg, did you get drawn for a hunt this year? I'm assuming you're talking about elk hunt. No, I didn't. But I have preference points because I've already applied the last 2 years. So I'm building up my preference points. Um, so, but once I get a tag in PA, that I'll know exactly where to go because I know where all the elk are. So I'll know exactly where to go to get a trophy. Um, So that's just the latest news, guys. I'm just going to open up the chat now. I'm going to read what you guys are saying. Um, D. Anderson says, what strength of iodine pills should we have? It's all on my website. If you go on my website, uh, NYPrepper.com, I have a bunch of nuclear war references. I have maps of nuclear war targets in Europe and in Canada. I have all the nuclear war targets in the U.S. So the link is in the description. But if you go to my website, you'll see on the top of my website, you'll see prepping references and articles. And if you go in there, I have a bunch of nuclear war survival reference information. Um, so I'll just read to you exactly what I have from the website here. It's really more dangerous for kids than old people. It's really young people that you need to really be worried about. Toddlers and adolescents and young kids, you really have to reduce the dosage more so than old people, um, because you could have an overdose situation for children. Um, so generally speaking, for adults, you should take 130 milligrams a day for 2 weeks. Okay, 130 milligrams a day for adults. For children between the age of 3 and 18, should take 65 milligrams. Infants and children between 1 month and 3 years should take 32 milligrams, and newborns from birth to 1 month of age should be given 16 milligrams. Okay. Um, I mean, the side effects of too much potassium iodide, I mean, you could get an allergic reaction, upset stomach, inflammations. It's very rare to have any kind of side effects from too much iodine. I mean, you would really have to take a lot, you know. So I have not heard anything of being over 40 and having to worry about it. I don't think that's real news. I think that's not true. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm just stating a fact. It's not true. It's more for young people. It's more for young people. Like D. Anderson says, what strength? Like I said, 130 milligrams for adults, one per day. Okay, 130 milligrams per day for adults. And then check my website for younger people. But there is no such thing as being older people not allowed to take it. I've never heard of such a thing, and I've researched it pretty heavily. Um, yeah, that AJ Hope says that's minor compared to radiation sickness. Yep, that's correct. Yep. Black Girl Ting 96. Do you think November, October, or December? Um, yeah, I think for nuke. If you're talking about nuking Ukraine, I'm thinking sometime in the winter. If anything, it would make the most sense to do it in the winter when the wind would blow the other direction. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Nobody knows what's in Putin's head, so it would make the most sense to wait until at least December, January, February. Those would be the times that I would be most concerned with, because then also, if Putin is really trying to terrorize the Ukrainians and break their will to fight, taking out their power grid in a massive nuclear strike in the middle of winter would also be devastating to the Ukrainian military, because the Ukrainian military needs the heat and the electricity, especially in the wintertime. And if he nukes everything, it's going to make it much harder for the Ukrainians to fight back. So I think, if anything, he's not going to wait until the summertime. He's going to do it in the winter, in my opinion. So I'm thinking December, January, February, something like that. Um, that's the time frame I'm thinking. Um, Derek Lady says my uncle works for BNSF and says they are moving military equipment at levels he's never seen in his 32-year career. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, the U.S. military is on the highest state of alert. ever. I think higher than the Cuban Missile Crisis, in my opinion. The winter would allow Russian troops to cross over the ice. I'm not sure what you're talking about. What part of the U.S. do you think Putin would try to hit if he had a short nuclear exchange? It's hard to say. I think it would be mostly military targets. I don't think he would go after cities, but it's possible he could go after cities. He could go after big cities. He could go after major military targets. It's really hard to say. I think he would mostly go for military, and then maybe some big cities also. Uh, but there could be a limited nuclear exchange. Um, it depends. If Putin just wants to send a message without escalating to a full scale war, then he would just go after military targets just to make a point and say, listen, I'm going to bomb your military because you bombed my military. So let's hypothetically think about a scenario here, okay? Let's say Ukraine gets nuked and then America responds by destroying a bunch of Russian military bases and equipment in eastern Ukraine. We take out their air defenses, we take out their radars, we take out their ammunition supplies, we take out any kind of equipment. We avoid attacking Russian troops, but we go after the Russian military equipment in Ukraine. I think that's a very high likelihood because then it would make America less look like less of the bad guy because we're not killing Russian troops. We're just destroying their equipment. So, I mean, we have Tomahawk missiles, we have all kinds of cruise missiles that we could bring to bear and just absolutely, utterly destroy all the Russian equipment in eastern Ukraine without even killing the troops. Of course, some troops would die, but for the most part, the U.S. would probably target things like Russian air defenses, Russian supply lines, Russian radar stations, any kind of equipment, and just hit it all with just a massive barrage of cruise missiles. And they could use that B-2 that landed in Poland. They could use that B-2 to drop bombs across eastern Ukraine. They did it in the Balkans in the 90s. The U.S. military used the B-2 stealth bombers to bomb Serbia to try to destroy Slobodan Milosevic's regime. And they used the B-2s extensively in the Balkans in the late 90s. So they are battle tested. And so they could use those B-2s in the same way that they did in the Balkans. They could use them for tactical strikes on the battlefield. They could drop all kinds of bombs. They could go after Russian military commanders and try to neutralize Russian military commanders in eastern Ukraine. They could blow up bridges and infrastructure and stuff like that. But let's say that's what America does, right? Let's say we do that, and then Putin could respond with nukes, but he wouldn't nuke. He wouldn't do, let's say, a full-scale nuclear attack on America. He would just launch like 5 or 10 of them and hit some critical bases in America with them and destroy some bases in America. And then America would retaliate back, possibly. And then it could just escalate from there. I don't know, guys. So, I'm just speculating here, guys. Black Girl Ting says, I emailed you a video. I hope it doesn't scare you. Oh, okay. I'll check it out. Uh, so, so we're on the verge of something happening, guys. I have a bad feeling, so we need to just, prepare as best as we can. Hopefully, things won't escalate any further, but we need to just be ready for an escalation. I think it's a high likelihood. Um, yeah, like I said, I think nukes will be in play Phoned Venus 2 says, when do I think nukes will be in play? Like I said, winter time. Okay, December, January, February, March. Those would be at prime times, maybe even up until April, because that's when the prevailing winds go east to west. Okay, so that's when I think it's going to happen, in my opinion. He's not going to do it when in the summertime when the winds blow towards Russia. So that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Nobody knows. It's really up to Putin. So I have a list of nuclear war targets in the entire U.S. I have all nuclear war targets in the U.S. if you want to check that out on my website. I also did a video on it. So find out if there's a nuclear war target. Somebody, Mac says, hey, Greg, being in Pennsylvania is not good if it hits New York. Praying for your family. No, that's actually false. First of all, Pennsylvania, the part of Pennsylvania where I am, I'm like 300 miles away from New York City, and there's no nuclear war targets anywhere near me. I live in the most secluded part of Pennsylvania and the most secluded part of the Northeast, one of the most secluded parts of the Northeast and the Midwest. There's no nuclear targets around me for hundreds of miles to my west or to my east. I have New York City, but okay, even if he nukes New York City, doesn't matter. By the time the fallout gets here, it's going to be much weaker, and the prevailing winds in this part of the country are generally northwest in fall, winter, spring, and in the summertime they're from the southwest. So the fallout would actually go out to Long Island or to Atlantic Ocean, or it would go to New England. It wouldn't go west. It's very rare for there to be a wind that blows from east to west in the Northeast. It's very rare. Only in like the depths of the summer when there's a tropical high pressure system and the winds are blowing from the southeast. But even then, the fallout would go to upstate New York and Canada. They wouldn't go directly west towards Pennsylvania. So that's actually false information. I appreciate your prayers, but that's false. So I want to just correct that. Okay. Uh, so, first, and also, there's really nowhere in the U.S. that you could go where you're not going to get any radiation. There's nowhere. If we're talking about a nuclear war, the fallout is going to be everywhere in the U.S. It doesn't matter where you are. It's just certain areas will have extremely high levels of fallout to the point where you need a very good fallout shelter. Otherwise, you're going to get exposed to life-threatening radiation. But other areas will have lighter radiation, like where I am. I'll probably have radiation, but it'll be light. But some other places, like if you're downwind of the missile fields in North Dakota or Montana, Wyoming, if you're downwind of those areas, then that's the worst place to be because all of those silos out there would be hit, and there's 450 nuclear silos in North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. We have a total of 450 missile silos. Each one of those silos would have to be hit directly with a nuclear warhead in order to disable it. So that's 450 nuclear bombs going off. Okay, that's a lot of radiation, and they're all surface bursts. Okay, so no, that's fake news. Pennsylvania is not a bad place to be. It's actually one of the best areas to live as a prepper in the entire eastern U.S., at least the part of Pennsylvania where I'm at, and that's why I moved here. It's one of the top 3 best places east of the Mississippi for a prepper for a variety of reasons, which maybe I'll do a video on. But so no, that's not true. Maybe if you're in Philadelphia and you're like right next to Jersey, then in that situation, yeah. But where I'm at, deep in Pennsylvania, I'm not worried about it. And even if it comes this way, I got preparations. So Maybe you should think about your preparations and whether you're prepared or not. Um, SoCal Deb says, New York Prepper, we're coming to stay with you. That's funny. That's funny. What about South Florida? South Florida does have some nuclear targets. You have Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral's a target. You have the, what is it, MacDill Air Force Base. That's a target also. So those would be some big targets. Cape Canaveral would probably be hit if it's an all-out nuclear exchange. They would definitely hit Cape Canaveral. Let me pull up. I have, like I said, I have a. If you're interested, go to my website. I have a list of all the nuclear targets in the U.S., Europe, and Canada. Okay, nobody I know on YouTube has done this except me, and I actually have it posted on my website. So you can go to my website, which is 100% free, no charge, and you can check out the maps I have of Europe and Canada, and then I have a list in for the U.S. of every single state and what the nuclear war targets are. Um, Top 10 safest places. Yeah, I've already done that. If you're interested, I've already done a video on the best areas to bug out in the U.S. I've already done that. I did that a few months back. So I can actually put it up on the screen for you. Let me actually share it. I did the top bug out locations in the entire country. So I might actually post it onto my website. I should post it on my website. Uh, yeah, I think I'm gonna actually post them to my website, but I do have a video. I'm gonna pull it up for you right now so you guys can see. Um, yeah, Groton, Connecticut is a huge nuclear war target. Yep, Groton, Connecticut. That's the attack sub base. Yeah, that would get hit for sure. That would get hit. Yep, that's a major nuclear war target. There's also a nuclear war target on Long Island in Suffolk County. There's a nuclear war target there in there's the Stony Brook. They have the particle accelerator and the nuclear research over there. Let me see if I can share that video of mine. Greg will have to go south to survive a nuclear winter. No, no, I don't think so. I think I'll be fine up here. I'm used to the cold. So I don't believe in all that stuff that people say that, oh, warmer climates are better for survival. That's actually not true. Actually, warmer climates can actually be worse for survival because you have no natural barriers. Warm weather, if you look at all the worst crime places in the world, they're always in tropical countries. Look at all the most dangerous countries to live in are in the tropics, okay? Latin America, Africa, uh, you know, Southeast Asia. Why is that? Because it's warm all year and people can go out and do all kinds of crime. But when it's cold outside, you can't go out and run around and pillage everything. So at least in a cold environment, for example, where I live, if there's a nuclear war next month and all of the grid goes down, the entire power grid goes down, I have I have hundreds of miles of hills around me, and once that snow lands and we have like a foot of snow on the ground, nobody's going to want to come here because there's not going to be any snow plows. The roads are not going to be plowed, so all the roads are going to be covered in snow, and that's a natural barrier. Nobody's going to be able to come and flood this area like other places. Um, so also warmer climates, there's more disease because the weather is warmer. You have more more venomous snakes, and you have all kinds of different bugs and stuff, and just all kinds of diseases. Okay, so actually the video I did was actually 50 minutes long. It's best bug out locations in America. I'm gonna open it up for you guys, and yeah, you guys can watch it for yourself. But I'll let you guys. I'll leave a link in the chat, but you can find it if you go to my bugging out playlist. I have a playlist for bugging out. If you go to that playlist, it's in there. I'm not going to sit here and watch a 50-minute video with you guys, but so I'm just going to share the video here. Let me see. All right, so this is the video. Best bug out locations in America. Safest areas to be after society collapses. Okay, I posted this a few months back. Definitely check it out. It's really good. And I have this color coded map that I made, and I explain everything. I think I was supposed to post this to my website actually, but I never did. Um, I'll leave a link in the chat. But so I'm gonna be doing some more videos on nuclear war survival, but you need to have a plan. What you're gonna do if there is a nuclear attack? Okay, where are you gonna shelter? Do you have a place that you can shelter to protect yourself and your family from fallout? And you need to have a plan. You need to have at least 2 weeks of food and water that you can live off of, because you're going to have to stay in your shelter for up to 2 weeks. Okay. So you need to make sure you have some cans of food and water. Okay. That would be the two biggest things that, you need to have that when you're in your shelter and we're waiting for the radiation to subside. And I know it sounds like it could never happen, guys, but look at Chernobyl, look at Fukushima. Nobody thought that that would happen, but it did. Nobody thought Russia would invade Ukraine, but they did. Okay, nobody thought Russia would bomb downtown Kiev and kill all these civilians, but they did. Okay, and just like nobody thinks Putin is going to nuke Ukraine, and I just feel like it's the whole thing repeating itself all the time. Anytime people think nothing is going to happen, that's when something happens. Yeah, Mama of Six says, I wish we had a basement. Yeah, if you don't have a basement in your house, you need to try to find some kind of structure in your area that has a basement. And I've done a video on that as well. If you want to check that out, I did a video. It's in my nuclear war survival playlist. I did a video where I went around to a city near me and I found like half a dozen structures that I could use as a fallout shelter. And it only took me about an hour to do that. So it's just a matter of prioritizing and having the ambition and the initiative to do things, because once the nuclear bombs land, if you don't have a fallout shelter, you're screwed. Okay, you're going to get exposed to a massive amount of radiation. Okay, so you need to have a fallout shelter. That's like the number one most important thing. A basement is going to save your life. If you have a basement in your house, it will save your life. If there's any building in your area that you can get to, in a reasonable amount of time and stock it with supplies, that's also going to save your life. Okay. Now, fallout, it takes a while for the fallout to land. It doesn't land right away unless you're like 5 or 10 miles from the detonation point. Then you're going to get the fallout very quickly. Okay. But if you're like me and you're, let's say, 300 miles from the nearest nuclear war target, by the time the fallout reaches me, it could be 12 hours. So I'm going to have 12 hours to get my shelter ready, to stock it with everything I need. Like I said, you're going to need 2 weeks of food and water and supplies. Okay. So wherever you plan to shelter, whether it's your basement, whether it's the basement of some other building in your area, you also don't need a basement necessarily. And I cover that in my nuclear war survival videos. Okay. You don't need a basement necessarily. You can find an old stone church, and those stone churches, they have huge stone blocks that are like a foot thick, and that'll reduce radiation tremendously. Okay. You can find a huge mall or something, or a Walmart, and even going there, and you can build some kind of an improvised fallout shelter in a Walmart. You could stack water bottles around you in the center of the store, and you could pile up pallets of stuff and make a shelter. There's a lot of things you can do. It's just you got to have the initiative. So uh, the house would only collapse if you're close to the blast. I'm talking about a fallout shelter. I'm not talking about a blast shelter. Okay. So if you're like really close to a nuclear target and you go into the basement of your house, it is possible the pressure wave could collapse your house. But unless it's a really big warhead, the blast wave is not going to propagate that far away. I mean, you would have to be like within 5 or 10 miles from the detonation point to worry about your house or your building collapsing on top of you. If you're like out in the suburbs or in the countryside and you're like 30 or more miles, or actually even just 10 plus miles from a nuclear war target, you don't have to worry about the blast wave reaching that far. Okay. Unless it's like a massive warhead, then maybe yes. But if you're a good distance away from the target, at least 10 miles, even if you're 20 or 30 miles, you should be safe from any kind of collapsing of your house. Okay, because the blast wave doesn't propagate 50 miles. It doesn't go that far. Okay, the radiation is a different story. The radiation could go for several hundred miles. So K. Paul says I'm 12 miles from Groton. Yeah, Groton is a bad area to be. Uh, the best place for you to go if there is a nuclear attack. Your best bet is to go north to northern Connecticut. That's a good safe area if you can get there before the bomb lands. Um, Banks, yep, banks, churches. I cover all of this in my nuclear war survival videos. If you go into my nuclear war survival playlist, I cover it all. How to build a fallout shelter quickly, what structures are good, apartment buildings that are made of bricks or cinder blocks, parking garages. I'm sure if you live near a city, you probably have a parking garage near you. I'm sure you have apartment buildings. I'm sure you have office buildings. I'm sure you have banks, fire departments, schools. Schools are one of the best uh, places to go because schools are built, at least if it's a school that was built in the Cold War, they were specifically built to withstand blast waves because of the nuclear war threat. And schools are usually very robust. They usually have basements. Hospitals are good too. Um, and I cover all of this in my nuclear war survival videos. Okay. So check them out. What's going on, Samantha MV? Hey, Greg. I hope you are doing well. Thank you, Samantha. I hope you're doing well too. So thank you guys for showing up tonight. I'm gonna wind down the live stream in a couple of minutes here. So thank you, everybody. I see all the familiar people are here. Misconduct, AJ Hope, Fear God, Lori B, Samantha, Fast Eagle, Redneck Prepper. Thank you guys so much for showing up and moderating. Nick P. Nick P says during the I was spot on during the pandemic. I was. Yep. Nobody wanted to hear it. I was telling people there were going to be lockdowns and nobody wanted to listen. Just looking through the chat here, see what you guys are saying. Good night, Cindy. 10,000 Lakes, BC. Great to see you. Thanks for showing up tonight. West Virginia is a good spot. You know, the only problem with West Virginia is that everybody's going to be going there because West Virginia is like the number one spot where everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to go to West Virginia. The problem with West Virginia is that it's number one. It's one of the highest poverty states in the country. The poverty level is extremely high, so the locals are not going to welcome you there. You might have your stuff stolen. You might even get attacked. Also, a lot of the soil is contaminated because of all the coal mining over there. From so many years of coal mining, there's a lot of contamination over there from all the mining. So that's something to consider too. You know, a lot of the groundwater is contaminated. There's all kinds of underground mines that are there that, you know, they don't even have mapped out, and they could just suddenly collapse one day. And if you happen to be near that, then that's going to be a bad thing. But yeah, West Virginia's pretty good. West Virginia's pretty good. Yeah, West Virginia will be cramped. Yeah, because everybody's going to go there. All of Washington, D.C., all of Richmond, Virginia, everybody's going to go there to bug out because that's what everybody thinks. Oh, I'm going to go to West Virginia, you know? So Shenandoah Valley. Yeah, Shenandoah Valley's pretty good. It's better than D.C. or the I-95 corridor, that's for sure. Yeah, Shenandoah Valley's pretty good. It's a little too close for comfort to I-95 because everybody from I-95 is going to flood to the Shenandoah Valley when there's SHTF. So you're going to get a lot of refugees coming in from DC and Richmond into the Shenandoah Valley, but they might not. I don't know. But it is a decent spot. Shenandoah Valley is a decent spot. It's not the best, but it's a decent spot. So you'll see in my video here. In this video, I have a color-coded diagram, and the yellow areas represent so it goes red, orange, yellow. Red is the best area to be, which is the Rocky Mountains. Orange is the second best areas to be, and then yellow is the third best areas to be. So red is the best, orange is second best, and yellow is the worst. Still good, but worst out of the other compared to the other areas, but still decent nonetheless. Where do you bug out if you live in Arizona? Arizona, you want to go to the northern part of Arizona. Northern Arizona is the place you want to go because it's not as hot. There's more moisture, and there's less people. So I would head up towards Flagstaff and that area. So, what's going on, Jay Wolf? Great to see you here. Hi, Greg. Thanks for always giving us the tea on everything. Blessings to you and yours. Thank you, Jay Wolf. I appreciate that. Thanks for your support. Um, so yeah, check out my video. It's in my bug out playlist. If you go through my playlists, there's a whole playlist on bugging out. Best bug out locations in America. Safest areas to be after society collapses. This is my video that I did, so definitely check it out. For some reason, it doesn't show how many views I got, but I know I got a lot of views on this one. Let me see how many views was there. That's weird. I guess they don't show views anymore. That's strange. They show the likes, but they don't show the views. Really strange. What about the Poconos? Poconos is okay. It's not the best because the Poconos is right next to New Jersey and New York City. So unfortunately, when people from New Jersey and New York City head west into Pennsylvania, they're gonna head through the Poconos, and the Poconos is gonna absorb a lot of the people from the New York City area and the New Jersey area. It's gonna get flooded with city people. Unfortunately, because the Poconos is literally the playground for the New York City people. So that's the first place everybody's going to go, just like the Catskills, Hudson Valley. Those areas are going to be the first areas to absorb the massive flow of refugees after SHTF. And it actually happened during Hurricane Sandy. You had all the people from New York City. They went to the Poconos. They went to upstate New York because they couldn't live where they on Long Island was completely destroyed by the hurricane. So they were staying in hotels in the Poconos. So the Poconos, unfortunately, is not the best area. It's decent. It's better than New York City, of course. It's better than New Jersey, of course. But it's basically right on the front line of the I-95. It's the gateway. The Poconos is like the gateway. It's the gateway to Pennsylvania, so everybody would cross through the Poconos and overrun the area. Sad to say. Obviously the Poconos has a lot of woods, and in the wintertime, the snow would prevent a lot of people from getting into the Poconos. So that's the only good thing going for you in the Poconos is you got the snow and the cold and the hills and the woods, which would slow down a lot of the city slickers trying to escape. But if it's in the summertime and the roads are clear and wide open, you're going to get a massive flow of city slickers coming into your area. So as long as you're prepared to deal with that and you have good security plans in place for your perimeter, then you should be okay. But it's a little too close for comfort. The Poconos is too close to New York City, in my opinion. It's literally right next to New York City. I think you're only like 90 miles from New York City. I mean, that's pretty close. So that's the downside. SoCal Deb says, got to go. Blessings to all. Stay safe. Thank you, SoCal Deb. Ross Snyderman says, beautiful in the summer in the Poconos. Yes, Poconos are very beautiful. The only downside to the Poconos is that they're overrun by New York City people. It's like it's so crowded there, and if there's a grid down situation, everybody from New York City is going to flood there. So that's the downside there. Gatlinburg, Tennessee is a good area. So let's see. Marcelo Dilton says, Greg, does being high up like I am now, 1,500 feet, help on anything? Um, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would really help that much. The elevation itself wouldn't help unless you have some hills around you. The hills can protect you from the refugees from the big cities. If you have a lot of wooded terrain and hills, the city slickers are not going to want to go through that, okay? Especially in the wintertime. You know, that's why like the area where I'm at is very safe because I have miles and miles of hills between me and I-95 and all the big cities. So in a SHTF situation, it's pretty far. And if it's in the wintertime, there's no way that millions of city slickers are going to come all the way out here because the roads are going to be impassable, you know? Um, so if you have like good hills around you, hills are really good for security because the hills prevent, it's a natural obstacle, you know? It's just like in war, you know, and many times in wars, a lot of countries, they won't go past a mountain range because the mountain range is just a natural obstacle. So if you live in a very hilly area, those hills are going to naturally funnel people's movements, and it's going to protect you, you know, especially to vehicle travel. For vehicles, it's huge, you know. Fast Eagle says Canadian prepper fluffs Putin. That's funny, yeah. Canadian prepper loves Putin. Yeah, he's like Canadian prepper has gone full Russia supporter. He's almost like a agent for the KGB almost. Every single video he does, he's just constantly propping up Putler and making America look bad. You know, I guess for him, you know, he's a Canadian, so maybe he's jealous of America. I don't know, and he hates us. I don't know what it is, but he loves Russia and Putler. And he like the other day, I was watching one of his videos, and he was talking about how Ukraine was going to get nuked, and it almost sounded like it was like exciting for him, like he wanted Russia to nuke Ukraine and punish them. It was just weird. Marcelo says it's pretty wooded and hills everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that support Vladimir Putin. I don't understand why, because Vladimir Putin is not a Christian, he's not a conservative, he's a communist. Vladimir Putin is a communist. He was a KGB. He was actually the director of the KGB. So he hates America. He hates freedom. He's not a conservative. He's the complete opposite of America. So to think that, you know, he's on our side or something is just crazy, in my opinion. Anybody who thinks that Putin is on our side needs to get their head checked. You know, he's not fighting the New World Order. He's not a conservative. This is has nothing to do with, you know, Putin liberating Ukraine from liberals and stuff. It has nothing to do with that. It's not a fight against the Eurocrats and the European Union and the New World Order. That's not what this is about. This is about Putin restoring communism along with China and all these other countries. They want to reestablish the communist order in the world and make communism a big thing again. Um, so yeah, anybody who thinks Putin is on our side or that Putin is fighting the New World Order, they need to get their head checked. I'm sorry. And I'm not afraid of hurting anybody's feelings. That's just the reality. He's not on our side. You know, he's a communist. He hates America. You know, he said himself many years ago that America and Russia will never be friends because we're complete opposites. America's capitalist and Russia's communist, and he said that complete opposites. You know, he didn't say capitalist versus communist, but he said America is based on individualism and Russia is based on collectivism, okay, which is just basically saying capitalist versus communist. Um, and you know, it's another funny thing too is that New York Adventure says these people need to make a doctor's appointment. That's funny. That's hilarious. Oh man, that was good. I don't know. Even some of these people are so crazy. I don't even know if a doctor can help them. I don't know. They're so set in their beliefs that they're just, But the biggest lie that I always hear people say is that, oh, Zelensky is corrupt. Zelensky is corrupt. What about Putin? Putin's not corrupt. Did you guys know that Vladimir Putin is the richest man in the world? I bet you guys didn't know that. Vladimir Putin is actually the richest man in the world. His net worth is like, I think he's like over 200 billion dollars. I don't know, 2 trillion, some crazy number. But the thing is with Vladimir Putin is that he owns a share in all of those Russian gas companies. So all these years, the last 20 years that Putin's been in power, he's had a majority share in all these companies, and he made tons and tons of money off of gas and oil sales. And so Putin is worth at least $200 billion. So you have all these people out there saying, "Oh, Zelensky steals money. Zelensky steals money from Ukrainians, and he's actually a billionaire." Well, what about Putin? Putin's worth $200 billion. You don't think Putin steals from his people? That's all he does, is he steals from his own people. So it's just like this crazy. People are just insane. You know, it's just insane. This love of Putin. It's really. And the funny thing is a lot of these people don't actually live in Russia. They live here in America, and they complain about it, and they support Putin. So if America is so bad, go move to Russia. Get the hell out of here. If you hate America, get the hell out and go live in Russia, and go get drafted and go fight in Ukraine, and get your leg blown off. Go, get the hell out. Okay. Christopher Kriva, thank you for that donation. Another donation, $20. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. God bless. Thank you so much. Jay Wolf says, good to know. Nice to see you too. Marcelo Dilton, thank you for that donation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hopefully your area, it sounds like your area is pretty safe. Jay says Canadian prepper has become annoying now. Total Putin admirer. Yeah, exactly. Canadian prepper. He's gone full on Russia supporter, Putin lover. Yeah, I mean he's not objective at all. He just fully supports Putin. 10,000 Lakes BC says Putin is worth 3 trillion. Yeah, Putin is. I don't think people understand that Putin is actually the richest guy in the world. Look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. Okay. Everybody says that, oh, yeah, Zelensky is corrupt. He's stealing money from his people. He's worth $1 billion. He's taking all this money that America. What's the latest BS conspiracy that I heard today? I guess it's going around now that Zelensky is stealing money from America with all these aid packages that they're giving to Ukraine. The latest conspiracy is that, oh, Zelensky's taking the money and it's not really going to the Ukrainian military. He's pocketing it. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Some of these people. I mean, these conspiracies are it's just absolutely 100% designed to weaken America, make us look bad. I'm a big conspiracy theorist, guys, but I also research conspiracies. I don't just gobble up everything that shows up on my lap and say, "Oh yeah, it must be definitely true," because you have to research these conspiracies. You can't just go with anything that anybody tells you. You know, I mean, anybody could make up anything. You have to research it and see if it's a valid theory or not. So Hink Hall, thank you for the donation. Here's to going out Sarah Connor nightmare style. That's funny. That's hilarious. It's getting cold out here. I like it. It's nice and cool. I think it's in the 40s now over here. I think we're in the 40s. Yeah. It's in the 40s. Redneck Prepper, what are the brown zones? The brown, they're actually supposed to be orange. Those are the second best areas to be. So red are the best areas, orange are second best, and yellow are third best. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you want to watch this video, I do a full explanation. I'm surprised I didn't post it to my website. Let me see. Did I? I don't think I posted it to my website yet. I should have. I'm gonna post this to my website. Uh, guys, there's so many people out there that support Putin, and I'm not gonna name any names because some of these people I'm friends with, and everybody has a right to their own opinion, but I just don't understand it. I don't understand why you would support Putin. It just makes no sense to me. So it's really sad, It really is. New York Adventurer says cold air is better than sweating. Yeah, cold air is better. I agree 100%. So I'll probably, I'm going to post these targets to these areas to my website actually, so you guys have them as a reference. I'm going to post these to my website in the next few days if you don't want to watch the whole video, but you can watch the whole video. It's almost an hour. Mexico looks lovely. Yeah, the northern Mexican mountains are really nice. So I think I'm going to wind down the live stream, guys. I think I'm going to cut the live stream down now. It's getting late over here. It's almost midnight, and I got to go do some stuff. So it was great to hang out with all you guys, and thanks for showing up to the Fireside chat tonight. I'm gonna do another live stream probably Monday or Tuesday. I'll be doing another live stream, so I'll be back. Don't worry. So just please pray for this world, guys. Pray for Ukraine. Pray for the Ukrainian people. They're going through hell right now. They're suffering. Um, pray for the Ukrainian people. Pray for Russian troops that have been forced to fight in the war. Pray for America. Pray for our leaders of our country. Ask God to, give our leaders wisdom in these difficult times. Um, and that's pretty much it. So AJ Hope says have a good weekend. Thank you, AJ. Samantha, thank you, Greg. Good night, everyone. Good night, Samantha. Good night, New York Adventurer, Davis08, Fast Eagle, Mama of Six, Misconduct, Country Christian, Maliaka Natama, Christopher Kriva, Get Right with God, 10,000 Lakes BC, Black Girl Ting, Redneck Prepper, Fear God Lori B, Aspen English, Bossy Wife 333. Thank you guys for showing up. New York Adventurer, Ross Niderman, Stance Clevenger. Thank you so much for hanging out. all you guys, thank you so much for all your support. I appreciate you all. We have to stick together in these hard times, guys. We have to stick together. There's not many of us out there, you know. There's all kinds of people out there, but you know, us preppers and open-minded folks, there's not many of us out there, so we have to stick together. Stance Clevenger, thank you for that donation. Let God prevail in your personal life. Take heart, be brave, be prepared. Thank you, Stance. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. So thank you guys so much. Trisha Mills, good night, Trisha Mills. Good night, everyone. I'm going to shut it down. So I'll see you guys probably either maybe Sunday night or Monday. Probably either Sunday night or Monday night. I'm not sure yet. I'll do another stream. But until then, I'll keep you guys posted of any breaking news. So thank you guys so much once again. And have a great night. Have a great weekend. Enjoy God's blessings. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.